agents track unlawful travelers across time. Their mission, protect the past, preserve the future. These agents are known as Time Cops.
Yeah. Welcome to Canceled. By the way, what I realized is I was saying before we started, I wrote down that opening, I didn't even get it all. I halfway through, I was like, nope, can't do it. I just realized I stopped early.
You're just writing hemorrhage.
So fucking bad. Welcome to Canceled. We are back. Jay Whitecotton is with us. How we doing, Jay?
I feel really, really terrible having watched more of this show.
It's bad. My girlfriend came home while I was watching the fourth episode, and it was like getting caught watching porn. Like she's like, "What are you
watching porn?
What is this?" Like, and it's also like she doesn't like time travel as like a thing in movies or whatever. But we were discussing this last night, and she's like, she doesn't mind time travel when it like they set firm rules and then the narrative abides by those rules and like that's fine. But I was like, oh well, then you're gonna fucking hate time travel. It's literally everything you hate about time travel in one fucking TV show.
I've been so mad. I've been IMDbing all the writers.
Oh, I never even thought
about that. They are
that.
Very successful and on good projects.
That's a wild bummer. Holy shit. I mean, good for them.
No, that means the system is screwed.
I guess. Well, maybe they're making good things. Like maybe they were like fucked by this show. Look, sometimes you got to take shitty work when you start, right? And then
I know
maybe they were like working on Timecop, squirreling away, El Camino for the Breaking Bad movie or whatever. Who knows? Ron Livingston shows up in one of these episodes, and he's like a real actor.
But he was a real actor at that point. That was right when Office Space came out.
Holy shit, is it?
Yeah, it was 97.
Wow. Okay. Let's jump into this show for a second, and I want to discuss a couple of things about this show. We've said it before, but the fact that this is 1997 is frankly absurd.
I can't get over the parallel that it's set in 2007 and filmed in 97, and those two things are screwing my mind. So everything I watch in the show is like, this is two terrible things at once.
But also, it is somehow not futuristic enough for 2007, they didn't nail anything, right? They're still the one thing that they kind of get right a little bit, I guess, and like all of any sci-fi set in the future was all about this for a time. Video phones, everybody fucking is about the video phone, right? And now I guess like people use FaceTime all the time.
I don't know anyone.
I don't do it, but people do. I see it all the time. I mean, in a mall, I'll see people just walking around having fucking FaceTime conversations. So, like, it's a thing. But, man, were they really fucking... Like, FaceTime answering machine messages. When he calls Claire, her face pops up, and she's like, sorry, I'm not home. It's fucking really stupid. Well, let's go to episode 3 first.
Yeah, all right.
The Stalker. It's 1956 in Hollywood.
Yeah.
This show can't figure out its tone at all.
I figured it out.
Okay.
I figured out. One, if you watch the show and you pretend it's Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, it's infinitely amazing. It's the best comedy on television.
Sense. Yeah.
Without that, you just take the blandest white guy in the world.
Oh,
Jack Logan.
Even his name. I was watching Kimmy Schmidt recently.
Yeah.
And Titus Andronicus in the 4th season, there's an episode where they do like an alternate reality thing where he becomes a famous actor, and his stage name is Jack Straightman.
Of course.
Jack Straight Man, and like that might as well be what Jack Logan is. It's just a terrible name. But the tone is like the music never fits. Like they went to some like fucking like royalty free music library to just go 50s or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
1997 royalty free. Well, no.
Well, there's a couple songs in there that are actual like.
They started out with I think it was Bill Haley's "See You Later, Alligator."
That's eventually in there, yeah, for sure. I remember seeing it.
It might not be Bill Haley. I'm trying to remember, but it sounded like
that
Bill
song
Haley.
is in there for sure.
But their reaction to it was, "What is this?" And they quoted it. It's music. This is in 97. They're pretending like Brian Setzer wasn't exploding, and we're just coming on the tail end of ska.
Yeah. No, they don't know anything. Like, there's a point in the next episode where they're looking at that letter, and Kurt Fuller says, I've studied rap lyrics that make more sense than this. it's 1997. Rap is a very popular genre of music.
It's 2007 in their universe.
Sure, for sure. But like, let's go on the subject that like, oh, maybe the writers in 97 are like, oh, this hip hop thing's a fad. It was the biggest form of music going. It was
Mace was making money. Mace was making money, and that should never have happened.
No, that is for sure. Okay, so. Here's what I wrote down for the beginning. This is as much of the beginning crawl as I could get.
No, what they didn't predict is that in 2007, all those dangerous rappers they were afraid of would be like sitcom stars.
Sure.
Disney.
Yeah.
And
Ice
just
Cube's in
polluted.
multiple fucking Are We There Yet movies.
Just polluted by white money. Just scarier than any song.
The year is 2007. Time travel is reality and it's fallen into criminal hands. With history itself at risk, the United States formed the Time Enforcement Commission, a top-secret agency responsible for policing the temporal stream. And then I was like, I can't write down any more of this. But so this episode starts, we meet Johnny the Chin Fontaine.
He does have a chin.
Who does indeed have a chin. He doesn't have a particularly...
It's not protruding at all.
It's not like a Jay Leno chin. It's just that he has a jaw that exists.
I think it was like a 50s expression they were writing in 97. Like, oh, people with a chin.
Yeah. Yeah, it's some like...
He's half Chinese.
He's he's a yeg or whatever weird 30s slang they were using. So this episode is about... initially, at least, there is a Hollywood starlet named Rita Lake who is being stalked by some stalker, right? But they have to protect her because she is going to marry someone and have a child who is going to become a president.
Not just a president, the 44th president.
So here's the thing: I'm dumb. So when this was when this all they started that conversation, I was like, oh, I gotta Google Rita Lake. Who is this lady? Because in a second in my head, I was like, they're doing the Forrest Gumpian thing of like basing it on true shit.
Yeah.
They for sure did not. They made it up.
No,
I was like, the math doesn't add up at all.
No, well, I thought all in my mind, and like I was just, this is too stupid. But I'm trying to have fun with this show.
You have to try. It's the only way to get through it.
I was just imagining, okay, Rita Lake is going to give birth to Obama. Obama had a white mom.
Yeah.
Are we going to find out that a dad's from Kenya or what? What are we gonna? Did Timecop expose the truth?
Yeah. How funny would that have been if that's what? Oh man,
I would have lost my mind.
Been fucking brilliant.
Fuck the Simpsons predicting the future.
Yeah. Timecop did it. Goddammit, in '97. So they have to go back in time to stop this because somebody. So they have to. So Johnny the Chin gets murdered by a future guy. And in the beginning, we don't see who the future guy is, right? We don't see he's just got future tech. But what I didn't get, and I still don't get, it turns out it's Ian Pasco, who is the bad guy from the first episode, right? He's back. He kills the dude, but he has a thing that can scan his face so that he can look like the dude that he killed.
Yep. For some reason.
But then he just leaves the dead body there. Like, you don't get an advantage. If he had scanned him so he could take him over and then threw that dude in a lake or whatever, they're like, okay, he's going to go pretend to be Johnny the Chin or whatever to get close to whoever. But he just leaves them. So the cop's like, oh, he's dead. And then he shows up later as Johnny the Chin. She's like, huh? Like, it's just
your corpse was in my front yard.
It's just confusing. It doesn't do anything. There's no purpose. That scanny things, there's no purpose of the plot other than just be confusing.
Well, it didn't even serve purpose. Like, it served purpose in the plot when he was trying. Like, okay, so our hero gets arrested by the beat cop,
right?
Who was the dad from?
I was gonna say, he looks super familiar, and I couldn't
Flight of the
place
Navigator.
It. Nice. Yeah. I couldn't place it, but yeah, for sure.
He did other things.
He's
but
been in a
that's
bunch of that dude worked a bunch. Yeah.
The show is amazing at getting side actors that are like, was maybe a thing,
right?
But the face technology works then, but he doesn't use it for very long.
No, he uses it for they don't even make it out of the police station. No. So he gets arrested, and a lawyer shows up to bail him out, and he's like, I'm from Rita sent me, I'm Rita's lawyer to bail you out of whatever, and they're like in the hallway, and he goes, surprise, it's me, Ian Pasco, but like. Take him somewhere if you're trying to surprise him, why are you
in the future? There's no such thing as discretion.
No, but they are, by the way, terrible police officers. He can't solve a crime to save his fucking life.
And honestly, I think that's the most believable part of the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Is one, they have, like, it feels like this amazing technology was just thrown in their hands, and they're like, yeah, all right.
Yeah. No, for sure. Later on, we can kind of treat these two episodes as a two-parter, because they basically are.
Yeah.
In the next episode, when we find out that Ian Pasco has been, like, everywhere.
Oh,
in
yeah,
time,
I don't want to
right?
give away that.
I don't want to give all of that away, but there's a moment where he talks about like, I rode with Genghis Khan and I
wrote it down.
I sat on the thing. It's a good line, but like, yeah, that's what you should be doing if you have time travel. Meanwhile, our cops are like, I went to the 70s once. Like, that's just fucking boring.
I stopped a cop from making more money.
I did. I did laugh.
Who's still alive?
There's a moment that genuinely made me laugh when they're sending him back. The first, or both of them, they send him and the woman back, right? Claire or whatever. And they're playing fucking See You Later, Alligator. And they're doing this, the classic, they do it every episode of like, we're about to travel through time montage, or like strapping in the car and whatever, but the music's playing and it's cutting to like Robert Fuller and whoever. And it cuts to the head, the guy from that 70s show. And he's just like, bopping his head to the music. Like, I genuinely laughed for like 20 seconds because it's this very serious montage as it always is. And he's
dynamic
just like,
time travel.
See you later, alligator. He's just like enjoying it. And that made me laugh.
Down.
And then they had to follow up with a very terrible gag of him. So he comes, the fucking entering into the new time period. He enters through a mirror in the ladies' dressing room of a department store.
He seems like I haven't seen the rest of the episodes, but it seems the running gag is every time he time travels, he violates a woman's rights.
Yes, 1,000%. He's immediately just a sexual creep for sure.
Hey,
he literally like comes through the dressing room. She's got like one strap down on her shoulder or whatever, and he's like, "Can you show me where the men's changing room is? By the way, that dress is the bee's knees or whatever."
You can't Me Too a time cop.
She should just. Why also isn't she just shitting her pants and screaming? A man just walked through a mirror. All she did was point him where the other room is and then fix her dress. It's such a terrible.
Human beings are very resourceful, man. We're very.
There is so. Our time cop is the gag where he. So he goes to where the Johnny the Chin's been killed, right?
Yeah.
And he has a little run in with one of the cops or whatever, and then he's back there looking around and he finds like a piece of future tech or whatever.
Does the matches they say
and
the 50s?
And then he finds a match. This show is 100% on the nose at all times.
Yes,
it literally does say the.
That's why I think if it was Will Ferrell, this would be hilarious.
Right, but it's not trying to be funny. But then when it is trying to be funny, it fails on all levels. So he tries. Rita shows up, the whatever, and he's like, "Oh, I dropped my matches." And she's like, I left my cigarettes in my car.
Yes.
He doesn't smoke. She's like, well, have one of mine. And then he can't, like, the whole gag is he's like, I can't pretend to smoke a cigarette.
Oh, it's not strong enough for me.
You fucking pussy. You're a cop. Just smoke a fucking cigarette for 5 seconds. Oh, it just made me like.
I actually vape.
Yeah. It's the future, by the way. Why aren't you vaping?
Like, I don't think there was vape in 2007. Like, that's how not in the future they are.
By the way, he is such a bad cop. He can't think on his feet at all. So she's like, so what? She goes, well, what are you doing here? And his answer is, I just thought you might need someone to talk to. What?
That's not an answer.
She doesn't know you. What do you? She's
Hi.
Also famous and being stalked.
I'm a star.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the stalker.
Right.
A man was murdered in my front yard. Oh, I've always depended on the kindness of strangers.
So dumb. This like obvious liar that's just snooping around. You're like, oh, I should put all my trust in him. He goes to the hotel.
It's Isaac Asimov meets Tennessee Williams. It's not good. It's not good.
He goes to the hotel that the matches are from. And he finds.
Okay, can I point something out?
I would love you to.
There's a little Easter egg here.
Okay.
On the paper, the guy that's like, I'm too busy to check people in and do my job.
Yeah.
So he's doing it for him. So the name that the is under Barry Manilow.
Right.
And his response is like, oh, I'm going to check in under Barry White. That was his big like, oh, I get you. But the paper that the guy's reading, it says, racism bad?
I didn't even see that. That's fucking hilarious.
Just subtle.
Subtle.
It's 1956. It good?
We did Peep Show a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah. The show where you watch
old porn
with comics who are uncomfortable.
Yes, that's the one. And
in front of an audience that's like wants worse.
They're way into it. The audience, it's a fun show.
Way too into
it. This show is super fun. But one of the porns we were watching was this girl is trying to win like the world dick sucking sucking champions. You watch like old porn from the 70s and 80s and stuff. She's trying to win the world dick sucking champions, and there's this montage of her like training, and she's got to like suck a bunch of dildos or whatever. And there's like a newspaper at one point that's like the spinning
paper,
and it comes, and the headline is like Susie wins, advances to the third round of whatever. And then if you look in the bottom left hand corner, it was like 9 murders, not enough to fucking whatever stop the police or whatever. It's just really serious headline in the bottom of this paper. It just made me laugh really hard. So what we find out is Ian Pascoe, the villain from the first episode, has come back in time to stalk her, ostensibly what we think initially is because he's trying to prevent this president from being born. But really, it is. I've pieced this together from both of the episodes. He went there and he left. So at the hotel, he finds Jack Logan finds his room, and it's got like all these fucking stalker pictures of Rita Lake and whatever.
Yeah.
And one of them is from 57, but it's actually 1956, so clearly it's a dude from the future. And so he's like, oh, well, he's here stalking her or whatever, right? But really, he went here to attract Jack Logan.
So he could kill him.
So that Jack Logan would arrest Ian Pascoe, take him back to 2007, where he can get his time watch that will allow him to continue traveling through time.
No, it's a temporal pocket watch.
Yeah, I fucking won't say it. I hate it. Every bit of bullshit lingo, that jargon they try to use in this show.
No, it's not just jargon lingo. They're really pushing this temporal word. They really want it to be like the T-shirt.
For sure.
Temporal sleaze bag.
Yeah.
Temporal detention.
Yeah. Which is just jail. It's not. Jail. There's nothing temporal about it. He's just in a room. It's just in jail.
In your present
in your current time. Exactly.
If anything, temporal detention is any other detention in time. And the temporal pocket watch. I'm just writing it down. And also, I figured out.
Temporal stream is what they call the time travel. Yeah, it's all temporal.
That little machine that they use. I figured out why in '97.
Oh, temporal insertion, by the way, is what they call putting you into another time period. It's so gross.
Well, I am temporal hot. That machine that they go back in time that disappears. There's two things that haven't been figured out. Okay. Where the fuck does that machine go?
And how do they get back into it to leave?
And they already have a new one by the time. Yeah. And also, it is one of those props you put outside grocery stores in the 90s for kids to put a quarter in and
just shake back and forth. Yeah.
But when I worked
it's a space shuttle, one of those.
That shuttle was designed for arcades. So if the show wildly successful, they would have one in arcades that you could play inside Timecop. That's what that thing was designed for.
That's hilarious. So here's my point. His plan was to go back in time, lure Jack Logan there to catch him, to bring him back to 2007, where he would then be able to break out of the jail and go get his temporal pocket watch, right? Because that's how he travels through time.
Yeah.
Then how the fuck did he get to 1956? It is the laziest fucking writing, and they never even try to explain it. They don't just go like, oh, he jumped in that thing and he ended in 1956. So then he was like, oh, well, I'm here. I'll make some clues or whatever.
Do you know what this show feels like? This show feels like you've pitched shows before, so you understand that meeting where you're sitting there. And imagine if you were asked, like you've been doing comedy, and then someone goes, "Hey, we want you to pitch a TV show." Right now. But, instead of preparing a vision.
You were just watching Timecop.
We're going to give you a lot of money, but only if you have an idea fucking now. And the guy's like, he's a cop. Right. We like cops.
Yeah, we like cops.
Solves murders in time.
Right. And then he just starts throwing cash at him immediately. His cash is covered in cum.
There's a reoccurring villain. He's hilarious.
By the way, I would like to talk about Ian Pascoe for a minute. Does he deliver any lines that aren't whispered in these two episodes, maniacally whispered?
He does it. Well, for some reason, he says the jokes, they're purely just for himself. He's having a great time.
He's really cracking himself up.
That bowling alley where he's chasing our hero in a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, can we talk about how good Jack Logan is at throwing bowling balls? Those things weigh like 16 pounds. He's fucking skyhooking them like he's fucking like he's Magic Johnson. Yeah, it's wild.
And this guy can shoot a bowling ball in the air,
it's very good.
But can't shoot the hero running in a straight line in open space.
Our hero is so bad. He does it again. In the previous episode, he throws the diamonds at the guy and then just stands there as opposed to like doing anything. This
pocket
episode,
sand.
He's in the bowling alley. He escapes. He gets away from him by diving headfirst into the pins.
Gets the spare.
Which I really enjoy.
Picks up the spare.
Grabs 2 bowling pins, right? And then he throws one in one direction so that the guy will look that way, right? And then he throws the other one real hard into his back, and it knocks him forward. And instead of tackling him or doing anything,
disabling his weapon,
waits a second, and then waits for the guy to turn around, and then runs away. You just accomplished nothing.
And also, the bowling pin didn't really hurt him.
No,
it just hit him in the back. He's like,
what the? Yeah.
Why?
The other thing, our cop who turns out to be the bad guy. So the twist of this episode is
she is being stalked.
She is being stalked by 2 people. She's being stalked by Ian Pasco, but she's also being stalked by someone from her time who turns out to be the detective that's investigating
Detective Flight of the
murder.
Navigator.
Yes. Who is also a terror. I do kind of like the way they depict police officers as wholly inept in all ways in this world.
Terrible cop.
He goes to the...
all he does is follow the Timecop.
All he does is follow the Timecop and then ignore the things the Timecop finds. They go to they find the hotel room, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a serial killer's lair. It's just got pictures of her with like her face X'd out. Like it's just like evil murderers staying here. And he goes, looks like this guy's really obsessed with Rita Lake. Must be 1,000 guys like that in this city. I don't see a crime here. What the fuck? There's 1,000 serial killers in your city?
Now, to be fair, that does make sense because he ends up being a
also
stalker.
being a serial killer,
like,
so I get it.
I can see. I see the attraction. She's a very lovely woman. I would love to wear her face. I totally get where this guy's coming from.
They've also figured out some way of communicating, which we bitched about the last episode, which is to leave things in a safety deposit box because that bank is going to be there for 60 years, and apparently someone's paying the fees on those
Goldman
safety
Sachs,
deposit
man.
boxes
Goldman
or something.
Sachs. The fucking
that annoyed the shit out of me.
The Bilderberger Group.
So Logan puts a bunch of evidence in the safety deposit box, and they get it in the future and open it up. And there's a poster of Rita Lake, but it's from 1957, so it's not the right time. But then they realize, she goes, wait a second. She like scans it, and she's like, this is a polymorphic, blah, blah, blah. And the cop's like, I did like him going like, yeah, I'm not a fucking idiot. I know. I can see a poly, whatever.
Hey, I know big words.
Yeah. But she sets it on fire, and she can't burn it. And then she crumbles it up in a ball and drops it, and it just goes back to being smooth and unwrinkled. She's like, this paper's from the future.
Yes, because books and paper were very valuable.
Here's my argument. If this shit is from the future, then how do you know what it does? She tries to burn it, she crumbles it. She clearly knows what this paper is capable of. How, if it's from after her time?
But why is it in the past?
Well, Ian Pasco brought it with him to lure. He left it there for Jack Logan to purposely find, so that he would then arrest Jack Logan. The whole thing is to get him back in time to get this pocket watch, which, by the way, he 100% succeeds at with very little hassle.
Extremely little.
Our cops have a 0-3 record dealing with Ian Pasco.
This is going to be the hardest podcast because everything's so convoluted. We are trying to make sense.
We're trying to make sense of this show that doesn't make a lot of sense, particularly this being basically a 2-parter. All right, this is fucking annoying too. The gags that they go for are bad and don't even make sense. Like, they make the narrative structure of the show not make sense. So Claire is there. Like, they send Claire back with him because they're going to need 2 people to do whatever, right? Claire's the blonde. And she's like, I'm going to drive over to whatever's house. You do this other thing. But she can't drive stick to the point where he goes, use the clutch. And she's like, what's a clutch? Well, then get out of the fucking car. What are you even doing? Also, how did you get where you're going? You clearly can't drive that vehicle. You didn't just learn how to drive stick by yourself on the way to wherever you were going.
Hey, man, women temporal time travelers. You know?
They be shopping.
They can't drive, man. They just can't drive.
Also, so there's a little bit of a flirtatious thing happening.
There's no temporal feminism.
There's there's a little bit in the next episode. But so there's a little bit of flirting going on with Jack Logan and Rita Lake, right? And they're having a dinner, whatever.
Yeah, they're doing that Fox Mulder Scully sexual tension thing.
But he can't. he can't do anything with her, right? Like if the rules of our world is you can't change anything, then you for sure can't fuck this girl, right? Like, what if you're the best dick she's ever had? Now no one else will do. She doesn't fuck the other dude because you've ruined her for all men, because that's the thing that happens. And then now she doesn't give birth to Obama. Like, here's my point. This sets up a whole thing where he's like trying to protect her because Ian Pasco shows up as Johnny the Chin, and she's like, wait a minute, you're dead. And then he's like, yeah, I guess. That
fight scene was actually really good.
Was it?
It was better than it should have been.
There is a moment where he does like the nip up and then straightens his tie,
when
which
he's
I
on
like.
His back, he flips himself up onto his feet, and then immediately adjusts the tie,
and then runs away.
Which I enjoyed. Well, here's the thing. He is not that guy.
No.
He is the future guy pretending to be that guy,
right,
but still adopted the mannerisms as if he was that guy.
Yeah.
His commitment to the character, his commitment to acting like that guy is better than his acting on the show.
Oh, for sure. I will also say, so there's a couple of moments at the end of this episode that I kind of enjoy for how bad they are. So he lures her back to set by saying that, he pretends to call as like the head of the studio. I also like how much the studio, like they're basically trying to make LA Confidential, so like the studio is all powerful in this world. So everybody's just like, oh, you must be, this guy's from the future. Like, oh, you must be from the studio. Tell Sam from the studio to back off or whatever.
No, it's weird because LA Confidential came out like a year later.
Yeah, it was very close. We'll talk about how he's also trying to be the Untouchables in a minute.
Oh, good. But you wrote that down too?
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, did I write it down?
That's the secret behind the show is it's all the writers basically just do period pieces. They just rip off
whatever the most popular movie of that period piece is, for sure. So they lure her back to set and he goes with her, right? But there's a guy at the door who's like, okay, I'm sorry, it's a closed set. We'll send her back out in a minute. And they close the set. And then he looks at the door and there's just a sign on the door that says, no filming today. And he's like, oh, wait a minute. Then they can't be filming. And he runs inside to protect her. But like, you couldn't figure out you couldn't write a dude coming by going like, hey, what are you waiting outside for?
Just some guy smoking.
Set's closed today or whatever. Like anything.
She's kidnapped.
Yeah. What are you, fucking dumb? But like, yeah, that's just how lazy the show is. As opposed to write, like they say, show don't tell. They just have to tell you.
Well, they do that in the next episode.
Show fucking Jesus.
Everything you bring up is like you could have just done this. I would have been dumber.
Right.
They do in the next episode. If you listen to the first 2 episodes of this podcast, you're going to see all the shit we're saying. They actually
do in the next 2 episodes.
They embrace.
So they've got her, and we have seen a couple moments of the movie that she's filming in the future, right? He's watching that movie previously in the episode, and there's a scene she's in an electric chair, and she's like, "But please, I'm innocent," or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So they walk in, and she's in the electric chair, and she's like, this is like a new scene. I don't remember.
Cheapest electric chair. It's just got a salad bowl and taped.
It's very cheap. But so she's been in, but now the locks are real and she can't get out of the chair, right? And the way Ian Pasco's gonna kill her is just from a Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
No. Let's set this up. Set this up because this is where.
All right, because the detective shows up first, right?
Okay. Well, the first thing that happens is she's sitting in this salad station. Super salad. Prepared for her death. He shows up, jiggles along. Oh, that's real.
Yeah.
You know it's real.
I'm going to have to go find something to bust these locks.
Yeah, goes around the corner, bopped on the head, and who shows up? The detective.
Right.
And then turns out he's the stalker, and she's like, why don't you do something to your job?
Here's my line.
She's shitty to him.
The line here, by the way, the line is this, which is great. He says, she's like, aren't you going to help me at your job? And he goes, that's my day job. This is my night job. Your night job is killing women. That's your night job. It's just another one of these terribly written lines.
That's how bad the economy was then, man.
It's a real gig economy.
She swiped for it too.
Yeah.
Well, at that point, the main villain shows up, Ian Pasco.
Right.
I refuse to know these names.
Understandable. I've been there many a time, but it's just stuck in my head because they say it 1,000 times in the next episode.
His line is he stops everybody and says, I find there's a touching lack of believability. Where are all the good writers these days?
Yeah. It's a little meta. He's breaking the
It's a little meta, but also, if it is in 1956, there was a lot of great writers.
Sure, they're everywhere.
The Beats were flourishing. I think Huxley was still alive. King Casey was doing his thing.
Yeah, this is like I'm bad on my timeline. Is this pre-McCarthyism, post-McCarthyism?
No, this is right in
the yeah. So they're looking for work.
They're all
of them.
blacklisted.
Yeah. So what he does,
and then what we see is what we see.
So he's like. He does a little thing with some piece of future tech, right? And it makes a laser. And then we see that the laser is burning through a rope that is holding a safe over her head. You can't just shoot her with a laser. Like, I don't understand why you have to Wile E. Coyote this.
Because it was bad writing.
How did you get this?
It clearly needed
Where
a
did you get the safe? How did you get it up there? I have a lot of questions about this safe.
He passed up the grand piano.
Yeah, he for sure should have dropped it. So Jack Logan somehow, like, he knocks the laser away. They have a little fight where they're running up the thing.
They shoot the detective.
Well, he like laser shoots.
He laser shoots. Right. Oh, yeah. By the way, it's called a laser blaster.
Yeah, it's for sure called a laser blaster. They say it many times in this episode, too.
The technical name for the scientific technology from the future, laser blaster. That thing that I used to work at where kids wore packs and photoned each other.
Yeah.
They in the scuffle, he's got to run. Like they
Jack Logan has to get up. He does the like old timey thing where he cuts one rope and there's sandbags on it. He
it's the same thing in the Victorian Jack the Ripper episode.
Absolutely.
Where they're up high.
They do it again in the next episode. They're on a fire. They're on a goddamn fire escape in the next episode. Yeah. The only way they can write action set pieces to heighten. They go, we have to heighten this.
Yeah, literally height.
Let's add height. Like that's the only way they know how to heighten things.
It's apparently the best leverage in war.
Yeah,
the upper ground.
So they go up and they're fighting in the catwalk or whatever. Pasco falls. He's able to stop the rope from burning. They get her out.
He just grabs it.
The little laser thing.
He doesn't turn it off. He just puts it in his thing. The laser's still going.
Yeah, it just cuts through his chest.
She notices it. She's like, he had this weird thing. Oh, it's a prop gun. Well, how did it kill the detective?
For sure, he says. She's like, I saw lasers come out of his gun. And he goes, oh, it's a prop from the Martian picture that's shooting on the next set. And she's like, well, how did it kill him then? Yeah. And his response is, we're going to have to wait for the coroner on that. Like, he doesn't even try to be like, oh, he had a heart attack, any number of things. It's very cheap. They free her. They tie up Pasco. Pasco's in a jail cell in the future, and it's like inside of a Pentium computer ad. And Jack Logan's watching the girl's movie, and at the end, now it says, dedicated to Jack Logan. Maybe, Jack, knock this shit off. I understand you're not supposed to, like, these are minor changes, but, like, if you're trying to hide time travel, which they say in the beginning, this is a top secret organization, they are trying to keep the idea of time travel kind of under wraps. Stop changing things, because people have seen that movie before, would have noticed that, it wasn't there, and now it's dedicated to Jack Logan. Some film nerd's going to be like, I wonder who Jack Logan is. Let me do some fucking research. Oh, it's a guy that works for the fucking time cops. God damn it.
Yeah.
It just makes me mad. And then for some reason, Ian Pasco is watching the same movie in his jail cell. He has a TV in the wall.
They just weren't tough on crime in 2007.
So goddamn
That's
lazy.
why the bankers got away with that.
It's so goddamn. Everything about this is the laziest shit in the world.
They're basically taking scenes from other movies and just throwing them all. It's a collage.
Yeah.
Or like, you remember watching Daffy Duck when the artist was screwing with Daffy Duck?
Yeah. And he like erases his feet or whatever. Yeah.
That's what this show feels like. The writers are like, fuck, I don't want to do this job. I'm trying to get fired, and they won't fire me.
They won't do it. Yeah,
I even said in the script, "Where are all the good writers? Please kill me."
The next episode, he's in. So we start with Ian Pasco in jail. He's being visited by the shrink to finish his psych eval, and Ian is whispering maniacally all of his lines.
Yeah, he's fiendishly rubbing his hands, and the guy's like, "That's not suspicious at all."
You might as well just be twisting a mustache. Like, you are just
he needs
cartoonishly villainous. He says to the shrink at one point, because I wrote this line down, he says, how do you... Hold on, I just wrote it down. Where's it go? He says, how can I explain standing over the body of Jack the Ripper to someone who's never been outside of his own time zone? I don't know. Easily. I stood over the body of a famous serial killer because I traveled through time. Also, are we not... This shrink clearly works for like the time cops. This is temporal detention.
Yeah, he's a temporal psychologist.
So like he doesn't have. There is no like, oh, this guy's crazy. He thinks he travels through time. No, he travels through time. He's also like
he's just a murderer.
He does say. There's also a line that I like. So he goes, I heard you got a letter recently, and he's like says something about the Fifth Amendment or whatever. He's like, I went back and whispered it in Thomas Jefferson's ear. All right.
Okay. Listen, let's get to that line. I think we both want to talk about this.
Well, I want to talk about this one line real quick because it made me laugh. He holds the letter and goes, "Oh, it looks like somebody's trying to reach out to you," and he just goes, "It's gibberish, you idiot!"
Yeah,
that made me laugh so hard. Because, like, so what we find out is the letter doesn't mean anything. But
no one read the letter.
But that's what's weird, right? So the letter has been, like, redacted.
We've been to jail, right? I'm sorry. I don't want to put you in there.
I got you. I haven't done any more than a night, but yeah.
Yeah. I've been 4 times.
Okay.
And it bothers me saying that because I'm not a criminal. Yeah. Like, for real.
Gotcha.
Not one of those guys.
Sure.
But, you can't live in your car, apparently. And not have insurance.
Yeah.
And be poor.
Sure.
So, that all said, even in prison, they read your letters.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what's crazy about this.
Especially if you're a murderer.
They have redacted the letter.
Who's writing a murderer from the future? You don't live in that time. I'm sorry. I'm just snapping to that. He doesn't live in 2007. He's from the future. Who wrote him?
Well, what turns out is he wrote himself.
I know he wrote himself.
But why don't the police?
It's the kid.
Why don't the police realize that? Because they're like, who's working with him? No one, motherfucker. He's from 2000.
They told us later a child dropped off a letter, and it was the child that was him that murdered his parents.
Right.
How did that kid? Like all of it. Fuck these cops.
So here's what's annoying me. I would like to get back to the redactedness of this letter. They say they make a point of selling because, like, he basically what we find out is the letter. The ink is actually iodide. Blah blah blah. He mixes it with a liquid. It turns into
puts it
smoke.
in a cup.
He puts it in a cup. It turns into smoke. He uses the smoke as a distraction to overpower a guard to escape. Right. So the letter doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter what's written on the pages. It's just getting the ink in. Right.
Yeah. His secret device was his inhaler.
Yes.
His temporal inhaler.
He needs it to get through.
I have temporal asthma.
So the Logan says to his boss, like, well, wasn't somebody monitoring his mail? And they go, yeah, but only for content, not for, like, the material itself or whatever. And that's why you see it when he hands the shrink the letter, it's redacted. Words are missing. But the letter itself is gibberish. So what fucking words did you cut out? Like, it just doesn't, they're not paying attention to the words they themselves are writing.
It was just the kid writing "cum" in Metallica font.
Yeah. It's just that like that S you draw by making like 3 lines and connecting them.
All the A's are anarchy symbol.
Also, I don't think there's any black people. I wrote down that I don't think there's any black people in the future. Turns out there's one. He shines shoes.
And pretty wise.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of info. Although he does say a lot. Okay, we'll get to him in a minute. So he escapes, and they realize he's trying to get his pocket watch, right? So they're like, well, how's he going to get to the pocket watch? They realize, he's going to kidnap the blonde cop and make her take him there, which he does completely easily.
Not even a chance at a problem.
No, he just shows up. It's like she's getting out of her car and he's just standing there and he wraps a belt around her hand.
Oh, she's narrating her own life. That was what she was like the alarms. She goes, somebody better make that illegal. In 2007.
Also, by the way, when Ian Pasco kills the guard and escapes, he says Elvis has left the building. Somebody wrote that down. Somebody wrote that down and handed it to somebody else. So he goes. There's so many terrible lines. Logan's becoming obsessed with Pasco, and his boss doesn't like it. But clearly, somebody should be obsessed with Pasco, and we'll find out later on. Yes, he should be. But he says, "I don't like him. I don't want him to shake and bake with your head."
You wrote that down too.
Of course, I did.
I did right there. Shake it, which brought me again to the Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly dynamic that this should.
So that made me laugh. They realize he's kidnapped her, meet us at this place or whatever.
Well, he kidnaps her and he demands, he's like, not only am I going to get away with this, but you're going to send me back in time.
Right.
because clearly I've lost that ability.
Well, he lost his watch, and you need to get me my watch.
That
But
thing
he
that I
tells him,
didn't need when I was already time traveling, but you're going to do
He
it.
tells him, I can't get you your watch because it's in a vault, and it needs a Senate subcommittee to open, and it's going to take weeks or whatever.
So they put him
By
in
the
the
way, none
car.
of that's true. They get the watch immediately.
Yeah. They put him in the car.
Yeah.
They're both strapped in separate.
Yeah, I know.
So what
just-
point is this a hostage thing?
It's definitely not. I guess he still has the laser blaster. He also says, I mean, the writing in this episode just gets so bad. He goes, never forget, I'm from the future. I'll always be one step ahead. Yeah, we know, dickhead, you're from the future. He also says later, because he tells him you got to meet me in 1926 Chicago, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, we're playing by Chicago rules now.
Yeah, this is where the...
Which are? I don't know what that means.
If he brings a knife, you bring a gun.
But that's not what's said. What's happened? So we meet Capone. So he goes back and we meet Capone, right?
Not only did he go back in time, they go back in time to the exact moment that the Untouchables is filming that stairway scene.
That woman's pushing that fucking baby carriage, and I was like, you cheap fucking assholes. Like, come.
The
movie,
music is vaguely similar, that eerie high trumpet.
Do you really think that more people will be watching Timecop than have seen the Oscar-nominated film, The
Brian De
Untouchables?
Palma's.
They're not going to pick up on your little fucking thing. To their credit, they don't follow through on that, but they do have a line at the end that makes me furious. We'll wait till we get to the end. But he meets Capone. Capone has a muscle guy that shows up.
Oh, how do we know it's Capone?
Oh, he's got a scar on the side of his face.
He's scratching at his scar.
Yeah, it's still
like,
itching.
hey, look what I got.
yeah. Well, he has to because it's not very obvious.
See?
It's kind of barely visible, so if he doesn't point at it, you wouldn't see it.
Do you recognize that actor?
Oh, he's been in a ton of shit.
He's been in a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
He was one of my favorite shows that no one watched because it was very bad. Forever Night.
I know that to be a
He was
show.
the partner-
For sure, never
okay.
watched it. There's like a vampire detective or something.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly it. And can only work nights.
Sure, of course he can. By the way, we did a show on this show. We did a pilot on this show. Me and Mike, I think it was Mike McRae and I watched it called The Owl. He's a detective whose superpower is he never sleeps. Like, not that he's a detective that never sleeps. He literally can't ever sleep. So he's just he just has to ride the bus all night. Terrible.
In circles.
It's super good, and it's what's his name from the Highlander TV series, Adrian Paul.
Adrian Paul.
Yeah. Anyway, so we meet Capone. He's got a muscle. He said, hey, did you take care of Mickey or whatever? And he goes, yeah, 2 in the eyes, 2 in the throat, 2 in the heart. For sure, overplay. Like, you don't have to shoot that. Like, 2 in the eyes, he's dead. You can stop there. Like,
Well, first of all, he
also,
said...
classic mob hit is like 2 behind the ear. Like, that's like
yeah.
classic mob hit. Why? They don't normally want it messier.
We shot him in the balls a couple of times. One in the arch of the foot. Yeah, where his gout was. We wanted to really hurt. We had him plantar fasciitis.
There's the lines. So what we find out is that Pasco has been coming back to this time period.
Yeah, they have a
and
moment.
sort of setting up. He's been making Capone. Capone was just a nobody, but he's like, I introduced you to bootlegging and the numbers and whatever.
A thing he was already going to do.
He was clearly already going to do, but more to the point, he says a lot because he's like, I've tipped you off about the cops and all the competition. He goes, you've dodged so many bullets, it's embarrassing. Why is it embarrassing? I don't understand. Like, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah,
like,
50 Cent was hailed cool for not for catching those bullets.
It just doesn't make any sense. These lines are just terrible. But so we find out that he has been like setting up Capone. He's been coming back there every 6 months.
He's the architect.
He's the
they call him the tourist.
They call him the tourist, but he's like this thing. Meanwhile, in the future, they're looking into Pasco and they're like, oh, why is he? There's a moment where he says, well, what? What didn't you find? He goes, that's what I did find. He's everywhere. And they start looking through time, and there's Ian Pasco in the background. He's like at the Hindenburg, and he's at the fucking Kennedy's assassination or whatever. He's all over.
We're just gonna they have a moment where they're sitting down and he's bragging about not only being in the past, but he's seen the future, the end of civilization.
He tells Jack Logan, he's like, how long have you, like, how far back have you gone? He's like, a couple hundred years. He's like, I wrote this line down, because I didn't write it all down, but I wrote this line down. He says, I watched a megalodon shark tear the throat out of a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
I wrote
How
that down.
did you do that? One is an aquatic creature, and one is very much on land.
I will do you one even better.
I'm sure there's a lot of terrible lines.
They lived in different ages. different periods of time.
Sure. Okay.
That means he brought a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I don't mean to go to the producer on this. He brought one.
I like that a lot. I didn't even realize. That's
he
so
went
good.
far back in time. It's like, come here.
Yeah.
And then threw it in the ocean. When he could have easily just grabbed the megalodon, throw it on land. Like I Googled, like I was like, I don't think those animals were in the same period.
At the same time.
And it took me, I lost an hour of my life watching videos because there's a lot of videos about Tyrannosaurus Rex versus a megalodon.
Who would win the fight?
Yeah, and it turns out the big problem in the comments section, because I love the comments section, is the T-Rex, like he'd be able to, like someone said he could breathe underwater, and like that's not true.
Yeah.
And it just turned into this thing where like, well, but if the shark was on land, it's a totally different story. People have spent their lives on this subject. So as much as we're shitting on this
throwaway line in this TV show,
I don't know what's worse, this line in the show. I've watched a megalodon shark rip the throat of a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah.
Or the fact that it's accurately predicted the internet and how people would spend so much time on that actual scenario happening.
Argument. He says a bunch. He's like, I rode with
Genghis
Khan on the plains. I saw Gabriel do a thing, which is like not a real person, so I don't understand. He says something about like he does like a biblical reference.
Gabriel blow the horns of Jericho down, something like that.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's not a thing that happened.
Yeah,
that's
there was an earthquake.
That's from a book. But then the last thing he says is like, I time traveled to the top of Mount Everest 5 minutes before the end of civilization or something like that.
I got a question for you. As a writer, how many drafts do you think this got there? I think it's all rough draft, and they just pushed it through.
I think what they did was brainstorm like lines, and then someone just said, all right, pick 5. We got to wrap this up. Yeah.
At what point did they go, these writers are like, I found out Jesus wasn't real. Muhammad was gay. Like just dumb shit like that.
For certain.
There had to be at least 100 of those that are like, we can't say that. It's going to be on ABC.
So they, so we find out Pasco is not just a regular villain. He's not even just a serial killer, but he has been making the history we know to be the Hindenburg and all these horrible disasters and murders. They didn't happen until Pasco happened. Pasco is the reason for all these horrible things. Basically, Mr. Glass.
I don't think that's what it is.
No, it is, because that's what they even say. Robert Fuller and Donna's dad from that '70s show say like he's making our history, and the reason that stopping adult him isn't going to make any difference. He's already done all those things, so they can't go back in time and fix it because he's already done it. What they have to do is get 13-year-old Pasco so they can prevent him from doing those things.
Yeah, so they got to be cops. Just cops.
In 2007. The show
just have to be
at
cops.
some point, it's just going to be a cop show that takes place in 2007 because that's where they have to catch
here's
it.
my contention with that. And it all goes down to the rules they set up in the first episode. There was already a Jack the Ripper.
Right.
He just replaced him.
Right.
So he was just acting out the things Jack the Ripper did.
Right.
So why isn't he doing that the same for the Hindenburg? Like, I just want to be the one that sets off this thing.
I got you, but that's...
So all those things Al Capone would have already happened.
That would make sense, except that is not the words they told us happened in the show. They literally tell us the other.
Well, I'm saying that they're wrong.
No, they are wrong. They are terrible. Also, this show, like I said, is so on the nose at all times. At one point, they're trying to find... So there's a hostage situation, like, you bring my watch, I bring the girl, we're going to meet at the train station from Untouchables. They might as well just say, we're going to meet at the train station from Untouchables.
We're going to meet in that film.
Yeah. At one point, he runs into, like, a porter who says to him, he's like, you're not meeting under the clock, are you? He's like, this is Chicago. That's a sucker.
It wasn't a reporter.
That's a sucker
it
setup.
was a station
a porter.
agent.
He was like a porter.
Porter.
Thing. Yeah. Who's like, you're not meeting under the clock, are you? This is Chicago. That's a sucker setup or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm going to take my break now and wait for the murder.
Yeah, he literally says that. He's like, oh, you're meeting under the clock? I'm going to go take my 5 because, like, you're going to get murdered. It's so fucking dumb.
And then he incorporates, okay, let's fucking...
And then he incorporates that guy into the...
So they're gonna
exchange,
yeah, for the girl for the temporal pocket watch of doom.
Yeah.
So in this very busy train station where people are just chilling, it's the guy with the girl,
right?
It's Al Capone holding the girl with a gun,
regular ass guy.
First of all, famous Chicago mobster,
for sure,
making a personal appearance, committing a crime.
Very famous, so famous that everybody, like the porter, is like, "Hey, how often do I get to tell my grandkids that I was spitting distance from Al Capone?"
Yeah. Oh, I don't know, that guy with the scar on his face.
Sure. Very famous. Holding a gun.
Holding
no one
open.
No one cares.
A gun not indigenous to that era.
Sure.
Either, by the way.
It
was a
gun.
large black Glock from the 90s.
Yeah. So they're going to do an exchange. He's giving the watch to the old Porter guy. But out of nowhere, this another cop shows up, and it's Elliot Ness. And
played by Sex and the
City's
Office Space's
Ron Livingston, right? Who is 2 weeks on the job and a bumbling idiot. That's his whole thing is like he doesn't know how to be Elliot Ness.
2 weeks on the job, and everyone has seen the Untouchables movie enough to know that he sucks.
He sucks really bad to the point where Jack Logan has to tell him, like, hey, if you really want to get Capone, remember 3 little letters, IRS. But he's also
he spelled it out for him.
You could. Also, why is he also now talking like he's from the 20s? He hasn't done that before.
He's having a good... Well, that's a white people thing, man.
Yeah,
like we're cultural chameleons, man. If you're black, we're going to talk to you in a certain way. If you're Indian, if you're Chinese, we're going to bow. It's this weird... I don't want to get off this podcast.
A lot of roll in your
This
R's.
makes the most sense to me in this show, is all the white people are like, oh, it's fun to cosplay other people's terrible lives.
Yeah, I'm a mixologist. So he ends up escaping. He still doesn't have the watch. They set up.
It's Bushwick.
But in the escape, he has kidnapped Elliot Ness. They trick Capone into leading them to where Pasco's going to be. And they show up. There's a little.
How did they trick him? Because this really.
She just shows up.
You didn't want to do it. You were trying to gloss over it.
I did because it's so fucking dumb. So
they don't know how to write for women.
She shows up, right? And now all Capone knows her to be is Ian Pasco's hostage.
Yes.
He has shown up with her clearly at gunpoint, like handcuffed. They've been keeping him.
Just so everyone knows and catches up, who is this woman?
Oh, it's the female cop from the first
female cop from the future.
From the future. The
who
blonde
went back
one, Claire
in time
Hemmings.
to help out, but the writers did nothing to ever help out.
Sure.
She was kidnapped and now being held.
Capone knows her only to be Ian Pasco's hostage. She shows up to Capone.
He had a gun on her tit.
He had a gun. Capone had a gun on her recently. She shows up and she just walks into his house and he's like, "You're the last person I expected to see walk in here." And basically she says, "We didn't see eye." Like he's like, "Why are you trying to help Pasco now? Why aren't you his hostage?" And she says, "We didn't see eye to eye at first, but I'm always a woman can't help but be attracted to a man of that much power." And fucking Capone's like, "Yeah, that makes sense."
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. You fucking broads are all the same. He literally says, like, yeah, you're all the same. You're all independent until you get your claws into some fat cat.
Yeah.
And so he immediately then, he's like, all right, well, then let's go I'll clearly take you to him because there's no way this could be a trap. It's a trap. They drive to Pasco. There's a little bit of a scuffle. Pasco, of course, runs away. Our boy Jack Logan chases him. They have to climb a fire escape because no fighting can take place on the ground. The watch falls off the side of the fire escape, hits the ground, opens up a time portal.
Yeah, as it does.
He tries to jump off the fire escape, but our boy catches him.
Not just catches him.
Hold by one hand on each of his wrists, and he's just holding him like he's shaking milk money out of his pants.
Yeah, he's not
like
even
a bully
struggling.
from the Little Rascals. No,
he's not even struggling.
Not at all. This man is 170, 180 pounds. He's a big guy. He's like tall.
He's 220.
He's holding him by his wrist.
There's 2 stones in this.
He's holding him by his wrist, and eventually he shakes himself loose. He falls into the time portal, and then the watch just sucks into the time portal with him. It just, for some reason, the watch doesn't like turn off. In the previous incantation, the last time we saw the watch be used, when this exact thing happened in the first episode, the watch sets off the portal, he goes through it, and then they have the watch. In this one, for some reason, when he goes through the portal, the watch just goes boop and just shoots into the portal for no reason at all. So our heroes are 0-3 with Ian Pasco. He is loose in time with his time watch. They have accomplished nothing in 2 episodes.
4?
4 episodes. But I mean, if we're going to count, the second one's kind of a standalone, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't really count. But if we're going to count just the last 2 episodes of like going back in time, coming to the future, catching him, going back in time again, meeting Al Capone, taking him down with Elliot Ness, all this stuff, we are exactly where we started in the first episode. Ian Pasco is loose with a fucking time watch.
This is the rules of sitcom, though. You always want a sitcom to start in one place, and by the end, back where you
started, for sure. But this isn't a goddamn sitcom. Here's the line that made me furious. They've knocked out. So she knocks out Capone, right? Because Capone hits her when she's got a gun on Pasco, and he says like, "No Dane pulls a gun on Al Capone and lives to tell the tale or whatever." And she goes, "Oh yeah," and she hits him in the balls, and then she elbows him. She says, "It's the first time for everything," right? So he's laying unconscious on the ground. They come back and they're like, "Hey," to Elliot Ness, "Hey, at least you get to take in Capone." And Capone, Ness says, "Why?" And this is what I like this line. It's not the line I'm talking about, but this made me laugh. They're like, "You kidnapped him and then assaulted him. He's the victim here." And I was like, yeah, that's 100% accurate. All you did was knock this man out. You're actually really enjoyed that. But he goes, that's where he tells him, "Man, remember the IRS or whatever." They leave, and then Elliot Ness leans down to unconscious Capone and says, "Remember this, Capone. Nobody's untouchable."
Yeah, they say it. They say it.
Not only do they flat out say it, here's the problem with that. That's not what the Untouchables was Elliot about. Ness and his cops were the untouchables because they couldn't be bought. So they don't even know the line they're fucking stealing. So clearly someone
was untouchable.
It made me so mad when he said it, because it's like, look, I get it. You've been hammering us with this fucking Untouchables thing for a minute, but did you actually watch it first, or did you just see the trailer? Because, goddamn,
that's my favorite thing about this show. This whole show is the writers going, "Hey, remember that better thing you could be watching?"
Yeah. We kind of remember it. We'll do a spinoff of it. It just made
we don't know why you're doing this.
It just made me so mad. That being said, I'm kind of curious where they go from here. I'm curious, are they going to... So I know that the next episode starts with a swastika, so clearly they're going to World War II.
Yes.
They're either going to World War II or 2019.
Or they're going forward.
Yeah. But I'm wondering if they're going to go back to a Monster of the Week for a little bit and then go back to Pasco. That doesn't... I feel like all hands on deck for Pasco hunting at this point. If you're the time cops, right? There should be at least a Pasco task force that's all they do. I understand there's other time copying they need to do or whatever. Yeah. But there should be some dedicated people trying to stop the guy who is literally responsible for all of the tragedies in the world.
Why would they add more casework? By the way, Susie Q.
Also, by the way, somebody's gone back to win the lottery. Who gives a shit? Let's maybe focus on this guy. We'll deal with him in a minute.
Yeah, they put Henry Fonda in Easy Rider for some reason. It's a terrible movie. We got to fix it. I got a couple of questions.
Please.
And maybe you can enlighten me on this.
I don't think I can.
I don't think so either, but I was trying to give you a little bit of it. This is your podcast, man. That's respect.
I appreciate it.
So, one, the guy that's presented as a criminal mastermind throughout all civilization, who is the foundation of all the horrors of the world, and has seen the end of it. He just can't figure out to go back and kill Jack Logan as a baby.
Motherfucker, there's so many options. Just go fucking kill Ian Pasco as a baby and be done with this. You're waiting. Why do you have to catch 13-year-old Ian Pasco? Get him when he's 12 or 7 or a fetus, or shoot his mom. Whatever. There's a lot of options here.
Everyone has options.
You have time travel, goddammit. Literally, you can do anything.
And they don't even care. They have time travel as nothing. It's I'm tired of it. I hate time travel.
Over it.
It's more of it's a job.
It's an inconvenience at this point.
And the other one is, no one's untouchable, not even you. Okay, every episode they just rip off dialogue from other period movies.
Sure.
Here's what's fucking me. Where... This has come up in a few episodes. Where does Jack get money?
He constantly has cash and
flushed.
He's flush all the time, and time period cash. If he showed up with 2007 $100 bills that don't look like from the 30s, and he handed that fucking hotel guy a stack of cash, he'd be like, "What is this fucking funny paper?" So I don't understand. And they never. All it would take would be an establishing thing in the first episode where they go, "Here's where we deck you out appropriately for the time period," right?
Yeah.
So you're not going back in your stupid future jumpsuit. We'll put you in a suit. Oh, by the way, I want to discuss this and we forgot. When he shows up in Chicago in the 20s, he's at a memorial for Mickey Triggerfinger, whatever the fuck, monster. Right? A monster who has been killed. And it's he says I guess somebody was a little quicker on the trigger or whatever. And then he says, "Thanks for the suit."
Yeah.
So he took the suit off a corpse?
Yes.
Don't they usually cut the back down those and then pin them
when they
so
turned
they can
around,
put them on your
just
body?
A bare ass.
That would have been. I would have laughed so. I would have been like, all right, you know what? This is the best show in the world. If he just ran away with a split down the back.
Again, if Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly were doing
that would have been a gag.
This would be the greatest show.
Yeah. I'd forgotten about that, and that's another moment of like, you fucking lazy assholes.
Well, if he's got all this money and he's putting it into circulation, that's going to affect the future.
Yes, everything he does affects the goddamn future. I'm like, how about, you know what's going to affect the future? Traveling through time in front of people and then pretending like they aren't going to go spread the word that a man showed up in future clothes through my mirror.
Not just future clothes, but perfectly adequate at H&M in the past.
But also, it says like police on it. Like it's like
Timecop.
Yeah, it's goddamn this fucking show.
It's where have all the good writers gone?
Yeah. You got anything you want to plug? I'll wrap this up.
I'm going to plug Breaking Bad because that's what I watched right after this. Just to
cleanse the palate a little bit. Yeah.
And also, I watched the episode that the writers of the show worked on. They worked on Breaking Bad.
Wow, really?
Yes. Also, a lot of CW shows that sucked, but also Breaking Bad.
Yeah, for sure. Give me a second. I have to pull up this fucking IMDb because that's fucking insane.
I keep going back and forth because I want to find. I'm trying to find ways to like. If you're listening to this, I want people to be able to, go, oh, that makes sense. Or where does this person go? Because like when we see these like writers' jobs, they're good writers.
Clearly, like people like Breaking Bad is very good. And some would argue it falls off a little bit towards the end, but I would say it's better than this regardless. Hold on. I'm trying to find like a writer.
Yeah, what you do is you go to Timecop TV series.
Yeah. I'm on the IMDb page, but it's not. Okay, let me go to an episode. Here we go.
I'm on it actually, writing credits.
Created for television, Mark Verheiden. Did he do anything? He wrote The Mask. He was a producer on Swamp Thing recently. What's his most recent credits? Ash vs. Evil Dead. He wrote 2 episodes of Daredevil, 2 episodes of Constantine. This man's been working.
The writer for this episode, Alfred Goh, he was a writer for Smallville, Spider-Man 2, I Am Number 4, The Mummy.
Yeah. Jesus.
Into the Badlands. Like, also not really good shows.
No, but like successful.
Aquaman.
And some would say competent. Like this show is incompetent.
Herbie Fully Loaded.
Sure.
Shanghai Nights.
Oh, yeah. I like
Showtime with De Niro. Like,
hey, what that means is there's hope. If you write terrible television, there's always hope for you.
Yeah, man, but the Lethal Weapon, like this Timecop.
Okay, don't plug it. What's your social media, Jay Whitecotton?
I'm at Twitter at Whitecotton. That's probably, the best.
Do that. I'm at Chris Cubis on all social media. ChrisCubisComedy.com for dates and all that good stuff. If you like the show, rate, review, subscribe. We record this show at the beautiful Permanent Record Studios here in Austin, Texas.
This is a good
Shout
studio.
out to super producer Mike Moody sitting in the studio today. He's waving.
You do a lot of music, right?
No, he does podcasts exclusively.
Just podcasts?
This is a podcast studio, my friend. It's the future.
I don't want to live in this future.
We'll see you next week.